Demons, devil fruits, the underworld, the souls of the dead, and inherited will. People, the last chapter of One Piece, chapter 1094, had our minds blown on so many fronts in more ways than one, ironically enough. Oda is seemingly infusing demon time in some way, shape, or form into the story of One Piece. Potentially, the final villains of the story are making their move, and they're starting off the final saga with some big plays with Jaygarcia Saturn. And as a Film Red fanboy myself, I have been touting the words of Top Musica, where Top Musica, the main villain of the Film Red movie, Top Musica is a demon that was created in ancient times long ago, an actual genuine demon that Uta could summon. And now here we have Saint Jaygarcia Saturn pulling up with the same energy. The fact that you have all these guys like Luffy and Kizaru, you have Zoro, you have Lucci, you have Jinbei, react to this ominous energy. Something is off. What's going on here? What's happening? The demons could be here genuinely to play. So if you haven't seen it already, check out my video over here I did for the chapter 1094, where we talk about things like Top Music, the underworld, and so on and so forth. Very interesting topics when it comes to, of course, demon time in One Piece. But in this video, I want to expand more on some of these subjects here because it is very intriguing, where Oda in some ways is setting up these proverbial lines of good and evil. The Gorosei, who are from on high, are quote-unquote all demons. And hell itself is not rising to the surface, but falling down from the heavens. And this is what Sabo mentions in chapter 1085, where he tried to take down the elders in Emu, but he failed to do so. And now he noted how hell was located on top of the world after seeing the elders in their forms, in the scans at least. And before a demon tail of some kind, because I'm convinced now that it's a genuine demon tail, pierced King Cobra, which at this point in time is very likely now that it's going to be Emu's tail, since the Gorosei themselves were not transformed before Sabo comes in there. But Emu has the most demonic sauce in the verse right now. So if there's anybody that would have the title of Prima Demon, the heavenly demon that you've seen all these manhwa or saying stuff, it would be Emu, without a doubt. But before King Cobra is killed in the scans again, Sabo notes so you can feel something very sinister in the atmosphere. And given the tension, we have the Gorosei surrounding King Cobra and he's about to get killed. Okay, understandable where the tension is palpable. But at the same time, given Jinbei's words in the latest chapter of One Piece, I do wonder if Sabo's feelings and Jinbei's words of something sinister, something ominous in the atmosphere, I wonder now if they're in lockstep. Let's say that Sabo was instinctively feeling the ominous demonic energy of Emu before it struck King Cobra. And I do like how the Viz translates the line that Jinbei says, where specifically in the Viz translation, they use the term unearthly. We'll tackle that real quick. For the Gorosei themselves, of course, cats have noted too the octagram circle arrays behind the five elders in chapter 233, and how it's similar to one that Brook lands on in chapter 524. And even in the anime, we see an actual pentagram in a square in the anime version of that chapter. A room completely full of Satan worshippers, old Saint Nick supporters. And if you're a man of the cloth,
the power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Yo, you gotta roll in with a canteen full of nothing but the purest holy water. Or if you're Bartholomew Kuma, a Bible. Oh, you see Kuma looking a lot more justified now with the Bible in hand. Oh yeah, Kuma looking a lot more justifiable carrying that Bible. In this way, the quote-unquote tyrant Kuma is looking like a soldier for the Most High. And it just so happens that a long time ago, on top of the very same red line that he visited, we find out that gods used to live there, according to Marco and Whitebeard in their flashback in chapter 1023. Not so holy now.
Deviant!
Amen.
You gotta bring your own Jesus juice. And mind you, I ain't sponsored. At least not yet, but the whole point here, the power of Christ will compel you, absolutely, when you're rolling into the demon's nest. but it used to be the land of the gods. And at the very least, we know that the Lunarians used to live on the top of the red line. They could have been the only race that lived up there, or they could have been one of many quote-unquote god races that lived on top of the red line that, let's say, at some point in the past fought against the demons that were eventually victorious against them, which is why they were damn near wiped out outside of so far King the Wildfire. Maybe it also involved Pudding's race, the Thrive tribe, as well. Not too sure at this point in time. But the whole point here is that we know that Kuma's race is also a unique race of some kind, and they could have been part of this god race. This is why I think a lot of folks are banking. When it came to the flashback Bonnie saw in the Kuma memory bubble, that flashback was a God Valley flashback. And I do love that theory a lot. It'd be so dope to have God Valley be introduced through Bartholomew Kuma and Julie Bonnie in some way to perform. However, if you are an astute One Piece fan, then these ideas of gods versus demons should somewhat remind you of what Nico Robbins said way back when in chapter 203. In the world at some point, there used to exist a counter system outside of the current Sea Circle one called the Age of Heaven. It wouldn't surprise me if they opted for just the Sea Circle counter system and completely remove the Age of Heaven one, let's say when the world government came to power during the Void, the Mu century. And I also believe now that in some way, the prophecies that kind of circle around the One Piece story, like the ones that the Neptunians talk about, these prophecies may be more in lockstep with the Age of Heaven calendar that at this point in time, we still don't know a lot of just yet. Actually, damn near nothing, honestly. In fact, it could be a lie told by Robin. We have to wait and see, but I still believe that that matters, the Age of Heaven. Because you can see how, again, Oda is dividing out these lines of good and evil. These typical, of course, without doubt, typical, but undeniable, grandiose, and overarching line. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow. That duality is likely shaping in real time, maybe since all time, the very beginning of the One Piece world itself, well predating even the Void Century. In chapter 1069, Vegapunk does bring to light the idea that there were records of the sun god Nika existing, but only in the oldest of texts. So we're talking about someone or something that was some kind of primordial entity that existed a long time ago, whose purpose was to bring joy to the people of that time. Folks have caught on that Luffy's Hagoromo scarf smoke around him, that is all white. But then you have Saturn's, based on the manga so far, that's black. It could be, let's say, a purple, a dark purple, maybe it could be a crimson color, we're not too sure. But so far, it's black. And this could be a clear visual representation of the characters' morals, personalities, in some ways the color of their soul. Rob Lucci has a black Hagoromo scarf around him because the color of his soul is tinged with shadow, it's black. And Yamato, when she's in her Zoan form, she has a lighter one because she is ultimately a good person at heart. This, of course, might mean nothing because someone like Kaku has also a black Hagoromo scarf around him, and Kaku's moral compass is more of a mixed bag. But let's say, for example, hypothetically speaking, Blackbeard kills Yamato. Not good, not good. And Yamato, her powers go over to Blackbeard. When he transformed to his Zoan form, he would get the black Hagoromo scarf, not a whiter or clearer, a lighter Hagoromo scarf. Just how you can argue that it was not a coincidence that Oda had Luffy hit Kizaru with the star gun, where you have the sort of whitish fire on his arm, and then when he hits him, you have these whitish color stars that pop around Kizaru, and then for Jay, he appears with a black star, my boy from Soul Eater, but not my boy in One Piece. He appears with a black star, pentagram, creates an explosion, and we see these blackish color flames. You can argue that was not a coinky-dink. In fact, the fives near the pentagram do fit one of the translations of the Gorosei, the 5 elder stars. Pentagram, star. 5 of these guys, 5 elder stars. But in this case here, the star is not a white shining beacon of hope like Luffy. No, it is a black demonic pentagram that has ties and connections to the most sinister of forces and planes of existences. Hope versus despair. It is the freedom versus control. It is the joy versus sadness. It is the Jedi versus the Sith. This is old school stuff. So old school that we apply it to, let's say, even like the D-Clan members, where you have D-Clan members that for the most part are good people, but then there are some members that aren't necessarily like the best of folks. Obviously folks like Blackbeard or folks like Rox D. Sebek. Now it could be the case here, where let's say the Gorosei and Imu are not actual demons, so they are different users. In the chapter where King Cobra got killed, we do find out that Imu was among the 20 kings and queens, the rulers of these nations that overcame the ancient uber powerful kingdom. Makes you wonder how.
Let me tell you a little bit about...
No. Guess what? Another video, another day. But you can argue the picture is getting clearer and clearer by the day. The fact of the matter is that we have gotten word from Vegapunk in chapter 1069, great number.
Nice.
The devil fruits have ties to a different dimension. Specifically in the Viz translation, these powers in some way exist in a different dimension. And these powers normally are dreamed up by somebody else before them. And if you take the concept of dreams and hopes and wishes that form certain devil fruits, then flip it around. Despair, nightmares, darkness. They created another type of devil fruit. Let's say not outside of the Paramecia or the Logia or the Zoan spectrums, no, but more so their nature is inherently bad. Their nature is inherently evil. You could argue that in some ways, the Yami Yami is one of these theoretical fruits where its nature, its darkness, and its nature could be tilted more towards the negative side rather than the positive side. Though ultimately, because it's just shadow abilities, it just depends on the nature of the person. Someone like Luffy eats the Yami Yami no Mi, he would still be a good-hearted, awesome dude. But Zoan abilities are a bit different, because Zoan abilities, these fruits tend to have stronger wills, which is why you can have inanimate objects like a cannon or a sword like Fangfried eat devil fruits. The Gorosei themselves say in chapter 1044 that it felt like the Gomu Gomu fruit was purposefully avoiding folks that had ties to the Gorosei, world government, and of course, very likely Imu itself. And so let's say again, they're not demons, the Gorosei. I think it's very possible. In ancient times, not currently, not like the thoughts and the wishes or the nightmares and the despair of the current people were making fruits. But specifically in ancient times, given the abilities of the ancient people, which as far as we know, far surpass the current gen, I believe that most of the fruits were created, formed, made in a way that was for the most part positive or neutral in nature. But some of them, particularly the Zoan ones, a select few of them, 5 of them, let's say, maybe 6, you know, 6 is a nasty number when it comes to the demonic stuff, absolutely. There were a few fruits that are made in a way more sinister, way more malicious way. It just so happens to coincide with the number of levels of Impelled Down. You have the Crimson Hell 1, the Wild Beast Hell 2, the Starvation Hell 3, the Blazing Hell 4, the Freezing Hell 5, and the Eternal Hell 6. So I wonder if there is a possibility that Impelled Down is also a symbolic reference to the different powers of the Gorosei and potentially Imu itself, if they are not true blue demons. And I once again have to harken back to some film red content, where Ta Musica was formed with the lowliness, the sadness. The words that are being used here are the shadow that fall on the soul. And if these certain things, like people's sadness or people's loneliness, can sort of form and coalesce in another plane of existence, and then you could tap into that to create a power and ability, the Gorosei could be the ones. And then let's say the reason why Saturn says that quote when he pops in, the surface world, it's been a long time. People said, don't go too deep into it. He's just touching grass. Maybe. But at the same time, he was on a boat for the longest. Yeah, no grass, but hold on. The surface world? That might not be Jay talking.
You killed your mother! Your servant! You left her alone!
In some ways, actually probably in a lot of ways, when it comes to the nature of the fruit, when it comes to the shadow over the soul, I think we may finally start tackling one of the hidden concepts of One Piece, the soul, where we know for a fact that an underworld exists. Zoro died and he went to the underworld and death came at him, especially in the anime. Death came at him looking for that soul. Brook visited the underworld, and for his attacks, he has these things called the winds of the netherworld. In the Kalgara and Norland flashback, they talk about how the souls of their ancestors were embedded into those trees, the very same trees that they had to cut down because those trees were killing off the Shandorians that lived in Jaya a long time ago, 400 years ago. When Sabo fought against Burgess, he made that comment about how Ace here wouldn't like what you just said. Things like that, inherited will, could be given form, genuine substance, through things like souls. And arguably it's already there in, let's say, various hockey types, like armor hockey. As far as we understand, it does involve the soul or spirit in some way. Oda said a while ago that Sanji's soul burns hotter than fire. People like Brook and Big Mom, they can manipulate their own souls and other people's souls too. And when I did research into the Ushi-Oni itself, the demon that Jay is modeled off of, can do something called eating the shadow or drinking the soul, where if a person makes eye contact with the Ushi-Oni, that person cannot avert their gaze and their soul gets drained and they die. What Jay Garcia did to that Marine could be an ability themed off of this. Even again in Film Red, one of the core concepts here about Film Red is that Uta sings, and in the Sing Sing world, people's souls in another plane of existence. Oh man, I've been saying these things for a while. People's physical bodies still exist in the physical world, but their souls are sent into the Sing Sing world, where basically Uta is omniscient and no one can leave the Sing Sing world. However, the medium, the bridge between the living world and the Sing Sing world was taught Musica. Did certain bridges exist back then that tie this supposed soul, other dimensional realms, maybe, to the current one? There are so many things you have to wonder. The last thing I could argue, if let's say it is definitely related, and we know that the Gorosei themselves were not the ones that made the Nika ability into the Gomu Gomu ability. Who made that change? There were Gunmen before them, but before them. So is it possible that Jaygarcia Saturn is the latest person among the 5 elders over the course of, let's say, centuries to have this Ushi-Oni ability, where let's say the previous godhead of science and defense, they passed away, and then Jay took the ability from this person? Could it be similar to Blackbeard's thing? Or maybe they're cycling through these fruits directly, like what Caesar Clown could do in Punk Hazard with Smiley, and they have the right fruit nearby for, let's say, these few demon-style devil fruits. And this might even involve, let's say, the top of the Eve tree that we haven't seen yet. Very strong biblical references here. In theory, the top of that tree should be somewhere on top of the red line because the roots go all the way down to Fishman Island, and Fishman Island is directly underneath the Holy Land. Maybe in most cases, these fruits don't spawn that way, but particular fruits do spawn that way. These particular demonic fruits. Oh, there's so much. As far as in ancient times, the sun god Nika was a real entity. So maybe there was the inverse of that too, but at the same time, they could have been only in another plane of existence. And so, I don't want to get to it again. Right now, I'm stoked, I'm hyped. Get ready, get ready. Let me know your thoughts on all the different things I said. If you enjoyed this video, then of course, make sure to slam the like button. Subscribe to the channel, click on that bell to join the notification squad. I'ma catch you cats on the flip side.